All right, good evening, everyone, for this meetup of Demystifying Data Cloud and Mythbusters. So we're the Salesforce Architect Community Group Utrecht. I'm Kid Jansen, Abdel and Kid. So we both work at Capgemini. I'm the Chief Sales Architect in our cluster and Deputy CTO. And you can do your own introduction, right?
Yeah, sure. Yes, I'm not the Chief DPO, I don't know what. I'm just a Salesforce Architect. And we are very happy today to have 3 stars with us. Vinay, who's our famous CTA, I think is known in the Netherlands, all around the world as well. And we have Thomas and Eric with us from Salesforce. One thing, please make their life difficult today and don't hesitate to ask tough questions. That's what you ask for, right? So let's do that.
We have a CTA in the room, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we are starting with Vinay.
Yeah.
As the first 30 minutes, he will make it easy for everyone to understand the data cloud and why we need data cloud, right?
Yeah.
And then we will continue with those 2 superstars.
Thomas already said he will make your life difficult as well. So he will bring all the difficult stuff from Data Cloud, nitty-gritty details. So
yeah. So
understanding also how to apply it in at your clients, like really implement it in a real life use case, not just a theory you learn in partner learning camp and trail. So, looking forward to that one.
All right, let's go.
Yeah.
Vinay, all yours.
Thank you. Yeah, so my name is Vinay Sail. I am enterprise architect at Dow Egress, just a company around the other side of that particular canal. My portfolio of Salesforce is around 30 to 40% at my work, but the rest of the stuff is more about aligning the business and IT architecture, which is kind of a enterprise architecture. And also I'm very instrumental in selecting a particular set of products that is required for the organization, and Data Cloud is one of them. So just I want to share my experience, what it goes actually behind the scene before even you start implementing a Data Cloud implementation. So I will focus on 2 things: the business discovery. Business discovery is topic on its own, might be months to talk about, but I will just condense a couple of points that you need to consider. And the second one about data mastery, what you need to consider for your implementation for a Data Cloud as such. So let's start with the business aspects, what you are expecting from the discovery. Many people think, okay, project gets started when Data Cloud comes on board, Salesforce already sold the product, and Capgemini comes in or any other particular SI comes in and start project implementation. But that's not true. Normally, the project starts, or I would say actually the discovery start. What are the business capabilities that you're looking for a Data Cloud platform? And even if you go for a Gartner documentation, which said the basic capabilities that you're looking for: data collection, profile, unification, activation, bare minimum that you require, and the rest of the stuff follows, like a segmentations. And then you have this magic quadrant where people look at, okay, Salesforce, Tilium, Treasure Data, and Adobe. Okay, these are in a big top line quadrants over here. If you see, look at the Tilium is having more than 10 billion tags, and they are very good in terms of a user experience, but they are lacking in a B2B capability. If you see Adobe, good with respect to the Adobe Experience Cloud, what they have, which is almost big of the enterprises user experience platform, but they lack in the way the licensing has been done behind the scene. And a Treasure Data, very much technical platform, but still okay data platform. Point I'm making, if you are a partner, like a SI partner, or if you are an end customer, make sure that you are reading those reports and also understanding the pros and cons. Even for a SI partner, it's very important to understand to whom they are competing against the platform that you are pitching against. So this particular documentation is already available on the website, from a Salesforce website itself, because they are leaders, so they can actually have that report and also available. So make sure that you read that particular report. Lot of pointers why one should use the Data Cloud in a first place based upon the capability that you are looking for. Again, I'm repeating, the project not starting when you first creating a data space or whatever actually the setup or activating Data Cloud in your org. It goes, what are the business capability or different stuff that comes in for which you are selecting the Data Cloud as a platform. Now, another important point, when you start any project, for example, Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, this is kind of a room that you see, right? Couple of business analysts, couple of product owners, then project managers, and they're discussing, but you're talking about a specific part, sales process. Service Cloud, you're talking about only the service propositions. Supply chain management or order management, you're looking for order management. But what happens with the data cloud? Data cloud is completely blank canvas and you can paint the picture the way you want. It's not related to the sales service, but it could be anything. So what happens? This is what happens, right? Everybody wants their own pie in terms of a data cloud implementation because the sales team looking at some different things to activate on the, for example, on the B2B portal or D2C portal, for example, or e-commerce. The supply chain management might be looking for optimization into the order management process around that one, or might be marketing team looking for activation on their brand website, for example, or something else. So how to make sure that you are satisfying the data cloud stuff for all those business requirements? And that's where my next bullet point comes in. But before that one, just want to say that one, the data cloud, when it comes in, your sales team, marketing team, or service team, everybody having their own pie into that one. So they will come up with a lot of requirement, and that's where the problem comes in with the human relationship aspect, which is called stakeholder management. Because if you go as a SI, or if you are actually end customer, within that organization itself, you have a lot of people just banking on a data cloud will solve all the problems. Then how you prioritize the things, right? That's very important. Then you talk about, okay, let me have a RASI matrix, let's put it on the board and let people follow. It will not work. So you need to bring the human element of the people. So what is that human element? Might be you can have a meeting with those and ask them to prioritize their request and put it into the bucket list. And also there are a lot of models around now we get like a RICE from the Atlassian, for an example, and also Kano, also for one of the methodology by which you can do the business value versus the effort and the priority assigned to that one, right? And make sure that for every department, might be you pick only 2 or 3 that is very important, crucial to them. And let's have agreement with all the people and also make sure that you identify a stakeholder who is a top one, who can actually make sure that all other sales service, who can actually guide them, this is the stuff that you're going to get it actually, right? So make sure that you have stakeholder management is very crucial in your assignments so that everybody will get own pie. The another important step is the blueprint. Why? Because you might have a tens of requirement from each department. You pick only 2, but what about the rest of the 8 for each different teams? So you need to put it into the roadmap just to make sure that having their buy-in so that we are not moving away from those requirements. We will implement, might it come after 6 months or 9 months or 10 months or 1 year. But you need to give a little bit of confidence to them because the data cloud is a kind of a software, which I'll also talk about in a few minutes, is the feedback loop software, but I will talk about in a few minutes. Another very important point is the low-hanging fruits, but it doesn't mean that you do the POC without any activation point, without thinking what need to be activated actually at the last. That's very important. So make sure that your activation point are always at the start of your journey, depending upon what data set that you want to bring in within a data cloud and what are the different stuff that you want to data cloud. So make sure that you identify low-hanging fruits, which is actually with the business value stuff and also the measurements around that one. So moving on, the another topic from a business discovery point of view, data spaces, right? So we have a nice documentation from a Salesforce, data spaces, left click, right click, create data space, everything works charm, right? Then you also have documentation from a Salesforce which says data spaces, segment, inside, identity, profile, click on it, works fine, right? Does that work in a reality? If you ask me, the answer is no. So what you need to think about the operating model. It is a global or a local. Because in a data cloud, technically you can have the global team working on a whole single data cloud instance and also the local variation that comes in. And might be local team want to have a separate space for them just to make that work. That could be one of the way. Another level segregation where I work, right? Country level segregation versus brand level. Because you might think about, I will do it everything at a country level, but I will manage the brand within that country, or you can do other way around. I will give at a brand level, then I will do the inside in it, the country level stuff. Acquisition merger, if you a company having a DNA of doing the acquisition merger, then you also need to consider if I'm getting a brand of beverages, then I'm also going to put it into the beverages data space compared to the other data space. But you need to have that preparation. And I got this one nice YouTube video from Salesforce themselves, about the org setup, because one of the things is that I think you guys also talk about, you have the multiple orgs, single org, multiple orgs in organization, and how to deal with that data spaces around that one. That is also very interesting stuff, actually, just for information. So that is kind of a technical part, but top one are very important. Just don't go and just click create a data space. It works in a test mode, but not in a reality. So that's all the business discovery. Just a few points I want to actually discuss on that one, not too much, because if I put a lot of stuff, it will not work. Then the next point is about a data mastery. And I think this is the biggest hurdle for the companies. The reason is that even if you SI partner comes in, I know from my personal experiences, I work 50% for the SI companies, 50% for the end customer. And my take is that when the SI partner comes in, they know only 30 to 40% about what that organization having the data models and all those kind of stuff in the software. The rest of the 60% might be somebody's brain, might be 20% in a documentation somewhere, but that's a fact is that you don't know the data. And that's the biggest truth. Okay. So first thing, garbage in, garbage out. It's very simple. For data cloud, there are like a lot of discussions that should we start this project after 2 months before we clean the data or not? And this is a valid discussion, to be honest, actually, because if you do not have a right clean data, you might have a big impact. For an example, few months back, I got an email from one of the biggest brand targeting me with marketing emails on female apparels, which is one of the bad example, right? In a Qantas recently, one of the incident happened that people were able to see the data in their portal, but the data was not belong to them. Data was belong to somewhere else, actually. I do not know what happens behind the scene, but this is what happened when you are doing the migration of the keys and all that stuff and all that. The problem comes in, which is directly impact your user experience, and that screw up your brand. So if you are not ready with a data set to bring it in a data cloud, think about which are the cleanest data set that you have it in the org, which you can bring first, and please clean up the data from the rest of the systems and then only bring it into the mainstream itself. The another few steps from business point of view, as I stated, that only few people in the organization knows where exactly the value of the data resides, right? And those are the data owners. So if you're a SI partner, identify those data owners. Sit along with them to understand the data first, because if you don't understand the data in terms of a data metadata, in terms of a master data management, and also the data lifecycle, I think customer data lifecycle or product data lifecycle are one of the excellent example. The one should at least minimum understand from a data cloud point of view. When exactly the product is sellable, becomes sellable, and from sellable, when it get really stop in terms of a servicing, that is also important. And from customer point of view, when the suspect become a prospect and prospect become a customer and customer become inactive. So that's a complete journey that happens, right? So be close to the data owners, whoever are they, and identify and be with them. That's very important, because trust me, when the SI partner or any company comes into implementation, they will not able to know the data in the first place. So you need to have help from somebody else. We talk about the data quality. I will not talk about so much around that one. Another important point is the data model, because also in a data cloud, we have different types of a data model objects that comes in, right? And it doesn't mean that you have 100 objects or 100 tables in the ERP system. You need to bring 100 tables into the data cloud. That doesn't make sense. So again, I'm saying that going to the activation channel, what you want to activate, where to activate, and what kind of a data to recover for activation. And depending upon other side, find out which are the exact bare minimum data that you require. But because out of that 100, 150 tables, you might not require all the data. You only require the data which is relevant for you. For an example, sometimes some company keeps also the contact information on order data, but you already have a contact object, so you can get rid of that one, because anyway it's a PI data. You want to minimize that one, because also Salesforce team will talk about a lot about AI in a few minutes. So you want to make it AI kind of a compliance also. So try to leverage minimum such kind of a PI data into the system, but also bring the minimal data what you require for activation. I do not know how it impacts on the licensing, but I will leave it up to you guys on that one. And of course, the security and the data privacy you need to keep in mind. From technical point of view, I think the way I see the data cloud as a software, when I was also doing a hands-on, in a sales cloud, service cloud, you do something like a create entitlements and all that, it works fine, not a problem. But for data cloud, one should understand how the data model works. So when I started my career, okay, we used to have extensive database training and also one first normal form, second normal form, third normal form. That was kind of a interesting concept actually. And a lot of people do not know in a Salesforce ecosystem because we have a object concept in a Salesforce. Okay, just right click and create an object relationship. Okay, maximum lookup and master detail. It will get finished. But there is a more than that one. Just look at this concept, then you will understand when you bring the data from outside, how you want to arrange within your data cloud ecosystem in terms of different models that you have it. The another thing is that data cloud, if you want to click something like a data spaces, it's very easy. But on what basis you want to click within a data cloud, I think that's the trick. So you spend more time on what you want, how you'd like to have a data model in place within the data cloud itself based upon the data coming from outside. Clicking job, anyone can do. But if you're just waiting for somebody's going to tell me, okay, then you are not a data cloud expert. The data cloud expert comes with the data science mechanism. And make it AI ready. Again, Salesforce will talk about a lot of stuff on AI, but make sure that bring the minimum data in terms of API stuff to make it that whole AI ready. That's very important. And the last one thing about activation point. Normally what happens, any vendor comes in, implement the project like a self-service cloud, go off, done, project done and dusted. But data cloud is a different kind of a project itself because you need to consider the feedback loop because one of the activation point might not working very well. So you need to take that feedback, adjust the data sets, make your whatever actually profiling and all that in such a way that you are actually making that activation important, right? So it means even for lesson for as a vendor, don't stop the project when it really get everything into the production. But I think after that you require, I think, high level of hypercare for such kind of a data cloud project to make sure that you bring the feedback, again, visit your source, your transformations, your identifications, and loop it back again and again. And that's where the biggest value of the data cloud comes in. I don't think so for data cloud, one can get a value just implementing the product and then you're done it with that one. So even for a customer point of view, if you give a project for a SI partner for 6 months, keep 3 months, just making sure that you make that perfect, that whole feedback loop. So that's very important. So just to summarize, it's too much to cover, but few stuff from a discovery point of view, acquisition merger, then you need to consider the operating models of the organizations and managing your stakeholders is very important. And also from a data point of view, the garbage in, garbage out, think about your metadata models and also the feedback loop, which I just mentioned just now on that one. So this is the stuff from my side. I know it is completely non-technical stuff, but still actually relevant for each and every project because I look from the lens from the enterprise architecture as if any SI vendor comes to us and telling us, okay, this is the way we want to do the data cloud implementation. Then we have this kind of a question, how we want to organize ourselves to make this data cloud investment quite successful enough, because that's also where the sponsorship for the upcoming data cloud implementation in terms of a different stakeholder, like a different business domain that comes in over there. But more about the technical stuffs and kind of a stuff where how that whole magic happens, the Salesforce team will talk about. Yeah. Yeah. Any questions? Sorry, I forgot. Yeah.
Thank you for quite insightful. I just want to ask if you have any tips for stakeholder management, because that's something which is very tricky. And I know that it depends on customers on other budgets.
I will tell you the general answer for that one, because the stakeholder management is a very generic topic, to be honest.
Yeah, but
yeah, so first of all, okay, I will tell you how I would have done it, okay, for a data cloud. The first of all, for talking to the each stakeholder, like a sales service individually, okay, and try to hear their ambitions from their side, okay. Put it on a paper. This is what we discussed. These are the top 5 or top 6. And also there is a Moscow priorities around that one. But this happens with the one stakeholder like sales cloud or service cloud or domain basically. Make sure that you also do it, repeat for all the domains. okay, and make an extract of that one, which are the top 2 you want to pick for each domain. Okay, that's another way. And when you finalize that one, have agreement, these are the top 2, then somebody will be there in an organization who is actually all the domains reporting to that guy, right? Find out that guy, okay, and make sure that everybody agree on that one. There is another way to look at the same problem. You might say that, okay, for now, we are only looking after the only 1 domain and we'll finish the 3 as a starting point. If it is successful, then we'll move up to the next one. There are multiple strategies, there is endless. But the main thing for you for stakeholder management is talking at a coffee corner rather than in a meeting room. I think that's the main thing. Even I do for every project, same stuff, not just because I'm working for a coffee company, but a coffee company. I don't drink coffee. I don't drink coffee. I'm a tea lover. So.
Okay, welcome everyone. So we're going to talk about Data Cloud, as you might have noticed. So my name is Thomas Boersma. I'm a solution engineer at Salesforce. I used to work at Capgemini for 6 years and now almost 6 years at Salesforce. And yeah, we're going to make it technical, interactive. Make sure you ask your questions. And yeah, maybe introduce yourself, Erik.
Thank you, Thomas. I'm the other guy on the slide. My name is Erik Derksen. I'm a technical architect with Salesforce ever since Salesforce launched Genie. So you know roughly a time frame. Before that was with another IT company, and Capgemini was actually one of my customers. So happy to be back in this place as well. And indeed, today, together with Thomas, we will talk to you about data cloud architecture, myths and myths busting, and let's please keep it interactive. If you have any questions, interruptions, right? Don't save it till the end. Let's make it interactive.
We start with a few questions first. So just wondering, like, who of you are customers? Maybe raise your hand. Existing customers or potential customers? Potential customers. Okay. And SIs, so like Capgemini, other consulting partners, or?
Okay.
Okay. So mostly great. And how many have done some trailheads on Data Cloud? Done the consulting course or planning to do it? Probably. Okay. Okay. So, right. We're just checking how deep we want to go today, but also if it's going too detailed, let us know. But let's start with the marketing.
Not CDP, but
In the AI Wild West, bad guys only want one thing.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, hand over the customer data and nobody gets hurt.
Not do anything good. Your daytime robbery.
On purchase history, financial records, chat transcripts.
Please, not my Q3 sales forecast.
Put it in the bag.
By the time people wake up to what's happening, well, that train has left the station.
It's got to come.
That is. Unless.
This way.
I never let them on board in the first place. Don't get robbed by bad guy AI. Salesforce AI never steals or shares your customer data.
We will touch on some roadmaps. So yeah, but it's just make a purchase decision based on what's available today. All right. Thank you for being here, and also thank you, Abdel and Capgemini, for hosting us today. I think it's really great to have these kind of events. Normally, I think you guys are speaking and we don't do anything, but this time you invited us. So thanks for trusting us in bringing us in here. So we'll start with a little bit of a high-level introduction, and also especially explain why Data Cloud is so important within any Salesforce project going forward, actually. And then we're going to do a deep dive with Erik. Nice diagrams, arrows, you know those. And then we're going to do some very innovative stuff around unstructured data and how we're going to use that in combination with generative AI, of course, powered by Data Cloud. And then we'll touch on a lot of other technical topics like data spaces, in which orgs should I provision data cloud, and yeah, then we'll go into the myth busting and the Q&A. So that's the schedule. We did this already. Then the Einstein 1 platform. Yeah, probably you have seen or heard this slide. At the beginning, I think it was not really clear what was really meant with the Einstein 1 platform. But basically, it's a new way of how like our AI capability is now integrated within the whole Salesforce platform, and which consists actually of multiple components. So the whole data component is managed by Data Cloud. So this is where you will see more and more of the architecture whenever you talk about any of these Salesforce applications. We'll be using Data Cloud on the background for any kind of larger data request or ask. So it's like your data integration platform within the Salesforce environment. And then on top of that, we have the Einstein capability, which is all about, of course, predictive AI. So like a low-code propensity builder, but also that is where we bring in our generative AI capabilities. So this is actually an integrated platform, and it's not just like a black box. It allows you to basically build any use case you want. And that's why it was really good that we started with that. Because if someone's going to ask me, what can I use Data Cloud for? Well, it depends. It can be used for any of these services or businesses within your organization. And yeah, we're going to really dive in more in the technical parts of the platform, but I will touch on some use cases as well. And one way of looking at it, actually, we try to really bring it down into, okay, how does then Data Cloud fit in the bigger AI picture? Because we see a lot of the generative AI and the capabilities there. That's also what we are building and expanding on. So what you'll see on top there, that's all the different Salesforce applications you might know today. And that is going to be powered by Einstein Copilot. So you might have heard about Copilot in general, like the Microsoft Copilot or ChatGPT Copilot, you name it. Our Copilot is basically one solution across all the 4 or 5 apps. And what that means is actually it's making use of the different capabilities within the Einstein platform. So we now also have a prompt builder. So the prompt builder, you can build and write your own prompts, and we can share them with the Einstein Copilot. And I know you're going to talk much more about this later, so I'll keep it a little bit short. Then we have the trust layer. So that's why you saw the video just now about we don't steal or share your data. So we have built-in controls around masking of data, zero retention of data whenever it's being used in an AI model, and also toxicity detecting. And then, of course, we have the ability to ingest different models. So we can work with the ChatGPT model, but we can also work with, for example, your own models that you built in AWS, or predictive models, or Databricks, Google, all the different players in there. And then below that, that is all powered from a data perspective through Data Cloud. So that's the difference, right? Where Data Cloud is now used to be just actually an application for just the marketing. It's now actually empowering this whole platform that's being built on top. And that has been going on already I think for a few years of development. And now we really see it actually taking shape and taking action. And that's also what we'll see later in the example, what we can do with the unstructured data now in the service context. Any questions on this, on the high level overview?
Just when you are using Einstein Copilot, is it necessary to use the Salesforce provided models?
No, so that's the thing here. I do need to check what's GA or not, but we have your bring your own AI option, and we have now for the LLM, the large language models, we have a few models I think supported, but there will be also an option to bring on your own LLM, or I think you can have your own version of the OpenAI LLM as well. That one you can also connect.
Yes. Copilot is, this is not a Copilot session, right? But in short, Copilot consists of its own layered structures indeed, and it has a planner service, which finds out what you're actually asking the assistant, the Copilot. And it has all these actions or tasks, or how you want to call them. Skills is what we previously called them. And these skills, we have them out of the box. They are sort of like pre-compiled with a prompt template and a model, etc. They use whatever model is right for them. But if you want to use your own actions or skills in that Copilot, for instance, troubleshoot a ticket specifically, or whatever, say something about an energy bill or the amount of coffee I should drink in the morning, that type of skills, you can say, I have this model trained for that and I want you to use it. And then you use Einstein Studio in Data Cloud to create a foundational model where you say, okay, I want to bring in my own LLM to do that. At the moment, currently, we have BYOLLM. Yeah, that's an acronym for OpenAI and Azure OpenAI. Those two are currently GA, but we are working and expanding to opening that up to the others out there. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, so if you say, okay, well, I don't trust OpenAI, then in the future, you can actually pick your own LLM that might be more relevant or more secure or only operating in the European Union, for example. All right, but we're going to touch on all these items actually a bit more later in detail. So this should be more like kind of an idea of where Data Cloud is sitting and supporting that whole direction. But yeah, Data Cloud is a general available product today. It's been out already for 3 years. We used to call it Customer 360 Audiences or CDP, I think even Genie as well. But now it's Data Cloud. And basically what we're doing is actually we have a really large development team on it. I would say almost 4 figures amount of people working on it on a daily basis. This means that also a lot of that innovation, that AI capabilities, the data capabilities are being added like every month. So if I would say the same presentation next month, it's probably already outdated again. That's really how fast it's actually going. So if you want to keep up, make sure you save some time for it. So yeah, what are the key things that Data Cloud does? It comes back actually to your things, what Gardner said, right? It's connecting the data. It's then harmonizing and integrating that. So making a common data model out of it, and then being able to use that data within those applications. That's the easy version of explaining it. But also what you see as well is Data Cloud is now more and more being integrated as part of your Salesforce platform. So if you are like a Sales Cloud user or Service Cloud, or you will see that a lot of the features that you might know today already in the Salesforce platform, like reports or flows or related lists, all these kind of actions will be natively accessible with Data Cloud. So you can actually use any of that data that you have right now in Data Cloud also in your sales and service activities. So that is really the way how we bring that integrated experience of the platform. So actually, in here, if I would put in Einstein Copilot, I have all those 3 layers actually in just one screen. All right. So that was the high-level introduction. We'll go deeper and deeper by minute, and at some point we might lose you, but that will be with Eric, I think. All right. So data systems, right? I think so that is where it starts. You first identify what are the relevant data systems.
Who has not seen this picture before?
Okay.
Okay.
One person. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Okay. Cool.
So yeah, maybe we can keep it really short. So that's all the different kind of out-of-the-box integrations that we have. But we also have like data lake integrations. So with the big names, AWS, BigQuery, Snowflake, Azure as well, and also API integrations. And of course, we have also MuleSoft that allows you with a lot of other API connectivity. And then within Data Cloud, we have a few key capabilities in there. So we have the bring your own lake. So that basically makes all your data that's, for example, sitting in Snowflake natively accessible within Data Cloud. So actually, you're not sending over the tables, you're just sharing the metadata, and it will automatically know, hey, this data is somewhere sitting in Snowflake. So that allows you to make live connections. And then we have now also added additional capabilities around batch transformation and ingestion. So if you have some data quality issues, some, I would not say all of them, but you can solve some of them now as well with the more advanced controls that we have in actually transforming the data or making updates or bringing it in the right formatting. So you see here also like, yeah, it's not like full ETL, but there is quite some out there that you can use in a quite short notice. Yeah. And these were actually a lot of these capabilities we had already. I believe it was within CRM Analytics, if you might know, where already this had also a lot of these capabilities, and we brought it now into Data Cloud. So it's not like a completely new feature. It has been out there for a while, but it's now just connected to Data Cloud. And then we have the important key concept, right, about harmonizing. So data spaces, this is where you segregate your data between different brands or countries. A data model, you can also have different data model per data space to make it more complex. And then, of course, we have identity resolution. Identity resolution is a way how we can say, I have 5 people, but they're actually the same person because he submitted the wrong first name, or he forgot the special characters, or used different email address. We can connect them together. Yeah, we'll touch upon that later. Well, that's a tricky one.
We'll have a nice discussion on that.
Yeah. That's one of the myths or discussion points. But also for accounts, and that's really great, right? Because also we have a lot of B2B customers, right, that are also more focused on, okay, how do I combine different accounts together? That's also possible now with identity resolution. And then we have a capability to make that data available, of course, activated directly in all the Salesforce elements. So segmentations, calculations, automations, analytics, BI reports, run the AI on top of it. All these things are all possible on top of the data. But I could also even share the data as a real-time data store to other platforms. So if I say, hey, actually, I don't have full Salesforce, but I have another system, well, you can just query live the data from a data graph, which make it actually real-time accessible also for other applications. All with me so far? Okay, good.
Have the design and say, okay, my domains are like all like to the data spaces.
Yeah, but data spaces will also touch in a level deeper because there are some considerations there.
Yeah, and remember our previous speaker, right? Just don't. What was it? Left click, right click, enable, something like that. Think about it, right?
The planning. Yeah.
How do I want my data space to be set up?
Who's going to use my data?
Who's going to use my data? Who's the stakeholder, and who's the boss of my stakeholder? Right? And does it make sense if my company has 2 main brands? Yes, that's sort of like a pretty easy customer. If you have 2 main brands, you have 2 main data spaces. But if you have a global brand that sells coffee and tea, and you're globally oriented, how are you going to do that matrix? So think about that. Absolutely.
All right. I think we're. Oh no. We have a few more things before we go into the detail. Yeah. So this is a level deeper in how that AI parts work. So we talked before, right? How Data Cloud is a key part, foundation for our Salesforce applications. So that is also the key source for our prompt builder to get the data from. So that will be structured data, and then also upcomingly unstructured data that allows you to ground the large language model. So whenever I have a request, let's say, give me the top 5 opportunities and a summary of the discussions we had around those top 5 opportunities and what are the most important stakeholders, then you can actually automatically ground that prompt with the relevant data. So it will come back with a relevant answer. Because if you're going to ask that question to ChatGPT, it wouldn't know it, right? It doesn't have that data. And that is what Data Cloud empowers in this process. So it's really more that real-time structured data environment, structured because of the metadata, that allows you to make those AI models much more powerful. And also a big thing that we have embraced as Salesforce is it's not just about Salesforce, but it's also about your own ecosystem of technologies, where most of the companies have at least one of these 4 data lakes out there, right? And we're going to add Azure to that as well, where we can have native real-time access to your data lake, bring your own machine learning model, and also being able to allow others to build apps on top of our platform. So we have App Exchange. There are already quite a lot of apps on there, but you're also more than free to build your own apps on top of Data Cloud, or your own AI models on top of Data Cloud, and publish them then on App Exchange. So that is really more that kind of platform approach, where we say like, okay, it's not just your sales application or it's your market application, but it's your customer application where I run all my engagement and activity on. So, okay, yeah, I think we covered this. So this is why would you want to use Data Cloud? So these are typical use cases. I have some more specific ones for Sales and Service Cloud as well. It's about connecting the data, using some predictions, some calculations on top of that, make some predictions potentially, and then activate that data. The activation part is really where we differentiate ourselves from data lakes. Data lakes are typically solutions that are being used by an BI department or a data science department or whatever. The focus of Data Cloud is the data is being used by a business team. Do you want to cover these now already, Eric? Or
if there's a need or if there's a question on it, we can cover some of them now. Some of them are coming back with the myth busting later on, but if you have question, go ahead.
Maybe we can do the NDM one, right? So there's a question already on that one. Why is not the NDM?
Yeah, and NDM is in the myth busting as well, so we'll skip it in there then, right? Yeah.
Let's say that I activate data that I bring in from my data lake. Does the data then go back to my data lake, or is there a different process that's more useful for that?
It depends. Sorry to sound like a project manager, but it depends on the use case, right? If you bring in your data from a data lake with the end goal, as our previous speaker said, to create a segment, to do a marketing outing to 100,000 email addresses, is there a need for that probably message opening or whatever to get back to your data lake? Then yes, by all means, feed that back into your data lake. If you don't have that need and you just want to do marketing analysis in a different reporting structure, there's no need to feed that back. It's not an automatic closed loop feedback, but we do advise to say, okay, measure your effectiveness of a marketing campaign, or if you're exposing your engagement data on your website into a person's profile for your salespeople in Sales Cloud, then you could just say, okay, this is just a report based on engagement or on customer lifetime value or whatever type of metric you're distilling from your connected data lake. So if you feel that you need to loop that back into your data lake, absolutely do that. And with these five, not these five, previous slide, so the big five data lakes out there where we do zero ETL, zero copy, we do it both ways. So it's Salesforce data in and it's Salesforce data out, but both in the zero copy feature, so to say. So a BigQuery can query Salesforce data from Data Cloud and use it in whatever type of reporting that you're building inside of BigQuery for Looker or whatever. Yeah. Also without copying.
I don't need to use an ETL to bring it back to my data lake.
No. If you have a different data lake somewhere else or a data warehouse in a DB2, whatever, then you might have to do a little bit of ETLing over there. But then we have other tools like out there, like MuleSoft or whatever, or Fivetran or whatever you have out there.
Great.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that might actually be a really good use case because there are some customers out there that indeed make a dump of the whole CRM every day and export everything out. While you might just need only a subset and then you don't need to dump it, you can just query the data you need directly from the platform. So it's definitely something that you could discuss from an architecture point of view. Do you really want to copy all the data over all the time?
Exactly. And again, we're really thankful for our previous speaker also to say, do we want to bring the whole data lake in? Yeah. No, not always. Just use the right data points, use the right fields, use the right records, use the right objects to bring in to get to a use case that your business has asked you to create, right? It can be a marketing use case. It can be a CRM enrichment use case for services or for sales, or do something with abandoned website browse or abandoned baskets to retarget them or whatever like that. Cool.
All right. Now, next interesting topic we get a lot of questions always about is the pricing model that we use. So I'm not going to share the exact pricing. I think you can actually see it on the website. You can just look it up there. I'm going to talk more about the ideas behind it and how it works to get a bit comfortable, because it actually impacts also your thinking about how you want to architect and design and how you want to implement. That's something that we need to take in our mind. So what is a consumption-based pricing model? In the Salesforce world, this might be quite new, right? Where we usually price on amount of users or amount of customers or around data storage, for example. Like these are things that we mainly charge our customer on today on our other technologies in Salesforce. But what we see in the open space, like in AWS, Snowflake, and Azure, they're more and more going towards a usage-based pricing model. So that basically means that you only pay for the features that you use, and you will also not pay if you are not using the features. So that's a different way of looking at it, and that's also why the use case and the business case is always important, because if there is no business case or use case to do anything, why should I copy over the data? It will just cost me money. So that is why always we want to also advise, think about the use case first, what you want to use, how you're going to use it, and then you can actually look and see, okay, how much will it cost me? But the thing is, within consumption-based pricing, you also want to have an idea of what will it potentially cost me.
Yep.
Because you say you have some finance department or some procurement department that wants to know how it works. So there are a few key components to understand. So we have a data cloud base package. So this comes with a set amount of credits, a set amount of storage, a set amount of users that can get access to the platform. So this is like a bundled offering that you can buy to get started, basically. That's so often we also call this the starter edition in that sense. And then on top of that, you can buy data storage. But I can tell you already, most of our customers, they don't need a lot of extra data storage because I think it comes already with 5 terabytes. Generally, that's enough, and it's actually also not a big cost driver. So what's driving the cost, and that's also what you see on other cloud providers, is of course what I do in terms of processing and transformation and all those things. And that's where we have the data service cards. So data service cards are basically credits that you will buy that allows you to use all these services within the platform. And all these services within the platform, they will come with a specific rate. And some are more expensive than others. So if I use, for example, batch imports, that's probably cheaper than if I'm going to do everything in real-time streaming. So all these kind of things and considerations will impact how much credits you will consume. And then specifically for the marketing side, you will have a separate part on the segmentation activation. So this is only relevant if you have marketing use cases and need to get access to the segmentation capability. So these are high level, the things that typically make up a license. But a good way to explain it is to go back to this model. This is the same picture we had before. It's a little bit more detail. But what you'll see now is we have mapped actually the different capabilities that we have in a platform into where the credits are consumed. So what you'll see here, okay, if I'm going to do a batch ingestion of data for 1 million rows, it will cost me 2,000 credits. If I'm going to do that with streaming data, it's going to cost me 5,000 credits. And don't worry, we saw before, right? You get 10 million credits with the starter edition. So these sound like a lot, but it depends really on. So what you will need to do is to kind of identify whenever I'm going to run a new use cases, what are the key processes that I'm going to use. So if I'm going to unify my contacts, or if I'm going to use calculated insights or segmentation, these will have different rate cards. It sounds complicated, but the thing is that we can help as Salesforce in helping you estimate what you will potentially need. We will give you access upcoming, I think it's 1 or 2 months, I have a slide on it, to your digital wallet, where you can see actually your own consumption of the credits. So you can see real time how the credits are consumed. And it will then allow you to kind of have like an idea also to start forecasting on how much credits you need. So yes, it does mean, I mean, we have a lot of skills at Salesforce to help you estimate, where we will ask for your input. But also what we see, it will maybe be like a 70 or 80% accurate estimation, because we're not going to know for sure how you're going to use the platform. You might use it in a completely different way. And actually, but that's what I see often with our customers. They buy the platform with a set of use case in mind, but as soon as they start using it, they hear about a much more important use case and they will start running with that.
Yeah.
So that's actually, I think, how things often work in practice, change really fast. And this model will allow you for that flexibility to use the platform in any way you want. So it might be that you actually don't use the server side, but you decide, okay, actually my analytics department needs some help with some data from Data Cloud, so I'm going to use the credits for that. And yeah, of course, then also the queries and selections, but the queries are relatively cheap, so that's typically not really what drives the consumption. What normally drives the consumption is based on the amount of data that you put in and the amount of unification of profiles that you want to do. If we know those three, we can actually already give you a quite good prediction. Estimation, I mean, not prediction.
Estimation, yeah.
Any more questions around that?
How do you calculate profile unification?
So the profile unification is about the amount of rows that you put into the process. So if you have multiple tables that you're using to run the unification on, then you will need to multiply that by the amount of rows. And then it will also be based on how often you run it. Yeah. So we are adding improvements to make the real-time or almost like the real-time unification possible. But it will be incremental. So we're going to not run the whole process every time, but we're going to run like a daily whole batch and an incremental refresh if you want to. So, but those are kind of like things that we can help you with in calculating how that will cost me on a year basis. And then sometimes it's good to think about, okay, is this process so important for me to run it 5 times per day, or do I just want to run it 1 time per day? Because that could be a really big saver in costs.
Are these 10 million credits in the base package per month, or you consume them and then you need to buy the additional package?
Yeah, so I think basically, yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
You buy them for a set period of time, so it could be a year, and I think for the starter pack it depends on how long you get the license on, because it can also be for 3 years. But when you use the credit, it's gone basically. So you can have a contract for 3 years with 1 billion credits, and you could burn them all in the first year if you want. Or it could be that in the first year you don't use the platform at all because the project is going much, much slower than expected. And then you actually have a lot of credits remaining for the rest of the project. So there is a benefit and con to every model, right? I think that's good to take in mind. Sometimes we get like, okay, this is very hard, but it's also in the same time a more fair way of pricing, because we have also customers seen that said, okay, I bought a license, but I don't use it, but I pay a lot for it. So actually I only want to use 10% of the platform, but I'm paying for 100% of the platform. And that's not the case in this scenario. You only pay for what you use.
Yeah. Yeah, and we usually advise, we'll come back to the question, we usually advise to, based on, how did you say it, estimation that we can help you do on your use cases that you want to start with as a customer, we advise to take 2, 3 to maximum 5 cases where you actively start building and monitor the utilization of those credits. that used to be in close correlation together with us and the SI because we didn't have this digital wallet yet, but that's now being piloted and that's going GA in July, I believe.
Yeah.
So we did the small print, right? So on camera. So in July, you as an owner and buyer of Data Cloud, you can real time see what an action has actually caused in credit consumption.
When we create a business case, it's always challenging to find out what is the monetary euro value attached to the benefit. For example, when you import 15 million consumer data, you do not know out of 15 million, when it goes in activation, how many will react on it, will purchase something and will buy something. And maybe one of the ways to looking at it also, because sometimes people feel like a licensing cost is too high because too many very stuff and going. I'm just playing with my brain now actually. Maybe at the start itself, we bring the control data from which you are anticipating the output in terms of the activation. Start slow instead of 15 million, find out that 1 million high order folks around that one, get it into the machine, run the machine, then bring the rest of the 1 million extra, 1 million extra rather than going for 15 million. But same like a marketing cloud, right? You bring the lot of 15 million, 30 million, you pay for a contact. Out of that, 10% only click on an email and 5% actually purchase something which brings the value to the customer.
Exactly, and that's sort of like an implementation recommendation. Take the data lake, take the data in, and feed also the reporting that you get out of that. Feed that back into your reporting systems, just to see how effective was this marketing campaign. Because I wanted to have my summer stock gone. How many people did react to my mail blast or my TikTok campaign or whatever? And use that data as a sort of like continuous loop to say, oh, hey, wait a minute, I thought TikTok was only for young adolescents until the age of 18, whatever. But it might turn out that stretching that to the bottom and to the top might actually yield more. Just making it up. I don't have TikTok. I see my kids on it all the time, but they don't have money, so they're not a target, right? By doing it in that way, starting small but thinking big, you have the possibility to make your marketing campaigns even more concise, or giving your account managers more input on how my coffee machine is actually need to be loaded and whatever, based on a relatively small POC with 1 million rows for a unification, for instance. You'll keep it within that 10 million, but you still have a good insight into what's actually going on, and then you can expand. And then it's on the commercial negotiation skills of okay, for how many discount can I get my additional credits, right? But we're here for the technical part, just to make sure.
All right, and yeah, I think there is another thing that we wanted to add. I think the slides later is we also have the option for customers that have an existing Salesforce Corporate Edition or Enterprise Edition on Salesforce Service Cloud to get access to Data Cloud in a freemium model. In that freemium model, you only get, I think, 100K credits. So it's 250K credits. It's usually okay for if you have like a B2B use case. If it's a B2C, it's going to be a bit more challenging. But you can do that already to like try out something, or say, hey, actually, I have a very interesting table I have in Snowflake that I want to connect with my sales data. Let me actually see how that works. That's exactly the kind of things that you could do with its freemium model. And that is also a good way to kind of like get an idea, okay, what do I want to do with the platform? Yeah. So sometimes it's also, I agree, you need to start with use case, but also you don't need to have like 10 use cases to get started, right? You can just start with a small one, try it out, and use only one part of the platform instead of everything at once. All right, then use cases. I see we're already going fast in time, but so basically what we see, right, a user within an organization, they won't say, hey, I work in the service department, but I really need data cloud. They won't come with that question. They will come with
1 ounce of data clouds.
yeah, I wish they would, but what they will say is like, hey, I'm missing right now certain parts of my data within my day-to-day work that doesn't allow me to resolve a case. So I need to now look into 5 different systems before I can find the answer, and that takes me a lot of time. Or it could be from a salesperson to say like, hey, actually, I'm getting a lot of leads from my marketing department, but the leads that I get are only on individual person level. I don't know the full context of the account. I want to know how the different persons within an account are actually using my products and what kind of things and behavior they're showing. So this kind of interest are often coming up from teams where you might not know before that Data Cloud was a solution, because they might have been asking you for years. But now with Data Cloud, you can solve their problem much, much faster and quicker. And that's really the power, because of course we can put all the data in CRM. It might get a little bit slow. It might get a bit expensive and take you a lot of time. But now we can really accelerate that integration pattern. And of course, we can do more with it because it's big data. We can run predictive, we can run generative actions to help also give more insights. So do like forecasting or indeed start combining also unstructured data. But it can also be out by automation. I think actually one of the use cases is we had in Salesforce is whenever someone filled in the lead form on the website, we need to know who to send that lead form in, right? I think we have like 70,000 people in our organization and maybe like 1,000 different people that will be relevant to send a lead for. So actually Data Cloud helps in finalizing and identifying who's the right person that they want to send that lead to. So these kind of processes could really benefit from more data. So if you have a customer, if you're an SI and they don't really know what they want with the data or the data missing, then you can change it around to say like, okay, what are you doing on a generative AI perspective? What kind of data would you need to be successful in generative AI to get there? And we'll touch upon that. So yeah, these are just an example of use cases, but it's actually an endless possibility, right? Our organization is also working on more specific industry point of views. So if you're working in a specific industry and want to know, okay, how does Data Cloud work in automotive or how does it work in manufacturing? We can also give you a bit more of a tailored overview of that. But these are the general high-level use cases where we see the most value or the most interest driving Data Cloud today. But again, this could be completely different next year because customers might find out actually that it can solve them some other problems that they didn't even know they had.
Focus industries that you start with? You already know it's manufacturing?
Yeah, I think, I mean, financial services definitely. So any business that puts AI in their financial reports, which I think is mostly any business, it could be relevant. Of course, it's amount of data. If you're not that mature yet with your data, it might, and you have like only, let's say, you're a startup with a few applications, then yeah, maybe you don't get a lot of benefits from it. But I have also customers that, for example, aren't big, but they use the Salesforce CRM service environment to basically integrate any system they had in their company. If they had Data Cloud today, they might actually do their implementation really different because they wouldn't need to make that integration to all those different systems anymore. They will just put Data Cloud in between.
Yeah, and what you see currently now, automotive cloud or part of manufacturing cloud is one that is actively adopting the whole Data Cloud idea, just because of the vast majority of the velocity and the volume in the big data 5 V's, as I recall, of all the telemetry data that's coming from chargers, from how many times did you step on the brake, all that stuff. In automotive cloud, you don't want that in a transactional database. That's data that doesn't really belong in there. So the architecture of Data Cloud is actually very well suited to handle that type of data. But you see it also for finance, financial services, because they are very keen on knowing engagement. That can be fraudulent engagement, a pretty hot topic nowadays, but it can also be to upgrade you to a certain banking status, right? And then
All the life sciences.
life sciences is one of the first ones with all medical data, etc. And then the one that doesn't really have its own industry cloud is retail. But we do see now that after data 360 audience, whatever, before my time, then CDP, then Genie, we now see that retail customers are actively, really looking into data cloud. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, because they might have had a CDP before, but that was mostly only focused on the marketing angle only. But then they found out that their service department were using a different solution and it was not connected. Exactly. So the CDP was not a single source of truth anymore, but it was your third single source of truth.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think these are some examples, but more than happy to take them offline. I can talk for hours on use cases, but I think it's important to go into the detail. Here was the slide. Yeah, I was looking for it. So this is the...
Told you.
You can scan it, you can request it, and you can get access. And you can also ask for 2 Tableau licenses on top for free that you can just use yourself. So if you're done using it and you just want the license to Tableau, this is also a great way to get access.
Yeah.
All right, are we ready?
Let's do it. Are we ready? Are we needing a break? Do we have questions? Good to go? See, it's not allowed by Kit, so we continue. Okay, architecture deep dive. Sorry?
Let's do a break in about half an hour.
Okay, so challenge is to finish this in half an hour. Okay, everybody heard that? Okay, now let's go for it. Architecture deep dive, don't be scared. We're all human. I'm definitely also only human. Stop me, speed me up, keep me honest, please. The product architecture as it stands now in a typical architecture fashion with a lot of colors and blocker those building blocks out there. These are sort of like the main compartments of how data cloud is being built up. It relies on everything that the users see on Lightning Web Components, right? And I'll talk about the architecture behind how it's all connected in a bit. We have a subset for data connectors. We have out-of-the-box data connectors coming from Data Cloud, but we also have a very special API version called the Ingestion API, which is Data Cloud specific. And we have a special version for MuleSoft, which is basically an implementation of the Ingestion API specifically for MuleSoft. Why is that important? Because it opens up the whole slew of any point connectors that MuleSoft has in its bag, which is, last time I counted, which I didn't, just popular saying, is 300 plus. So whatever system doesn't come out of the box with us in that connector framework, we're pretty sure to have one of these connectors in MuleSoft. If that still isn't there, we still have partners and API, open and published APIs where you can push your data to if you want to. Well, we have all the other famous boxes out there, but what I really want to get through to is this picture. Right? Questions? Okay. Let's start simple, right? But you've seen the end result, so you know where we're getting to, and also the level of white space on this slide is an indication of how we're going to do this. So Data Cloud, what you need for Data Cloud is a home org. You need a core org to provision Data Cloud into. That doesn't say that it sits in that core org in a first party or third party data center. Data Cloud is always Hyperforce based hosted, but it starts with that home org. Once you've provisioned Data Cloud, you can start with the stuff we call data streams, which is that connector framework. You can use the out-of-the-box connectors, which are depicted here, Am I saying something stupid? No, they are depicted here. We have S3. In the future, we'll have that bring your own lake from Redshift. At the moment, we have Snowflake and BigQuery GA, but Marketing Cloud is out of the box. B2C commerce is out of the box. All the sales service orgs are out of the box. Connectivity into that data stream, which is by definition batch-based. And it runs every, I think over there it says, what is it? Red is 10 minutes. So that data is automatically updated into Data Cloud every 10 minutes. And it's an upsert mechanism. So once you've done your day zero initial load, it will, from that point onward, only do an upsert. So it will, and a delete. So it will only take into account rows and records that have been changed. Okay? Another form
you
of...
missed a few. That's the thing with the slides getting outdated. So we also have Azure Blob Storage and SFTP as well.
True,
Also,
but I think they will appear later. No, perhaps. Okay, yeah. I think it was on there, but okay. Perhaps it was in. But true, if it doesn't show up, we also have SFTP as a standard connector and blob storage for the three big ones. Azure, Google, Amazon, S3, right? Okay. So the next form of ingestion is streaming, which is faster ingestion, right? And this is very well suited for any use case where you want to have behavioral data coming from your websites or your mobile app and stream that into Data Cloud, as you see on this side over here. But it can also be coming from your first-party systems, either an on-premise database SQL service somewhere under a desk, or it can be a third-party system where you run a mainframe on Kix with ZOS Connect from IBM, for instance, right? That's a typical example of where you can use that 300 plus connectors in any point, in any connect, to use MuleSoft for that one.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Back to the batch part, the sales service and
yeah.
orgs. You said it's an upsert.
Yeah.
So as soon as you start loading, it's updating it. It's always, if it's an upsert, it doesn't matter. You have sort of like, maybe I translated it differently, but a sort of selection mechanism. And as soon as it has selected it, it will either update it or insert it. So it's not like you make a selection one-off and then that's it.
Now, what I'm trying to say with upsert is that it will not refresh the full data set time and time again. Remember, in the consumption-based model, a batch insert costs credits. Yeah, okay. That's why I say upsert. So if you have let's say 1 million records, you do day zero,
does the delta.
It does the delta. Oh, delta. Is that a better understanding? Delta? Yeah. Okay, we call it delta from now on. It's the same thing, right? Okay. Bring your own lake. At this slide, we have Snowflake here as bring your own lake as GA.
BigQuery.
And that should also have BigQuery on there, which is currently available in GA. Redshift is still future, together with Databricks. That's coming next release. And somewhere in the future, we will do the fifth one. And Thomas already mentioned who the fifth one was. That's going to be Azure Fabric, right? I missed one. Did I click twice? No, okay. Oh, apparently on this slide, I also talk about harmonization. Apparently, sorry. Once you connect and ingest or look at your data virtually, right? In these 5 use cases from Bring Your Own Lake, we bring them in and we call that data lake objects. So they sit in this data lake, virtual or not, and we call them data lake objects. As soon as we start mapping those data lake objects to our canonical data model, our customer 360 data model, we call them data model objects. Before we map them, we could do some transformations, right? We could do left joins, right joins, exclusive joins, whatever with your data, or do other type of data transformation on your data coming in before you write them to a data model object. This data model object is somewhat of an important object because that will be the rows that you start using to do, for instance, identity resolution. So back to the question, if you have 4 source systems of 1 million records, and they all contain profile data, they all contain an email address, a phone number, a first name, a last name, whatever identifies a profile, or an account for that matter, those 4 times 1 million will be counted towards that profile unification. And it's the source set that's counted in that consumption-based model. So that's 4 times 100,000 credits. The result is a unified profile. Any questions so far? Yes.
Actually, I saw explanation for the data out of the data management, how their data is moving economical wise. So there's a lot of the data management to do that well.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And the model we provide is a model as a best practice model. It doesn't necessarily only always suit your only needs.
That's the part where you have data management, where the business back in play.
Yes.
The first part of the technical, but there you get the part where you apply business logic.
Yes.
Data model.
Yes, exactly. And this is also know your stakeholders. Know where your data is coming from. Know what you need to be mapping. And we have customers who have a motto saying, 1 customer, 1 email address. That is a good starting point, right? Because it's very helpful that you know that you have cleansed your data, that you know that the stuff that is coming into Data Cloud is in such a good shape that 1 person is 1 mail address. And we'll talk about MDM later, because it was yourself also who talked about MDM, right? So based on unified profiles, but also on DMOs, so other mapped data model objects can serve as an input to calculated insights. Those can be batched or streaming, and calculated insights are, example always works best, lifetime value. Propensity to churn is a bit more AI driven, but a lifetime value is a very good insight of a calculated insight. RFM model. Yeah, you're the marketing guy, right? I'm just an architect. Yeah, and these can be either in batch or streaming. So the streaming cases are, and we'll talk about that when we talk about roadmap a bit later. Those are forming up towards more and more the real-time personalization character of Data Cloud that we're trying to achieve. So now, if you have calculated insights and you have unified profiles that you use in such a calculated insight, you can do stuff what we call data actions. Data actions are triggered by a change in a DMO. So something happens, a change data capture or whatever, and you do something with that. You either launch a marketing journey or you do a webhook. And yeah, we like that webhook to go to MuleSoft, right? Or you do a platform event. And that platform event, you can catch and do stuff with that. Basically, all you want. Do it in Apex, do it in Flow, whatever. In the earlier days, if you wanted to do that in Flow, you'd had to actively catch the platform event and do some JSON parsing and whatever. But we've listened to you guys, and now a platform triggered event, a data cloud triggered flow is actually standard in the product. So you can have a flow being triggered from your core system over there on a DMO change. So you don't have to do all the parsing and all that stuff anymore. Questions on this? So far, so good? Oh, sorry. I bluntly assumed that you knew what flow was.
Like these kind of actions, or assign someone to a lead. All these kind of things can be triggered automatically in flow.
Yeah. Clear? Yep. A lot of flow automators in the room. Yes. Cool. Another activation in core is CRM enrichments. And at the moment for, keep me straight and keep me honest here, Thomas, at the moment for lead, contact and account, this is forward-looking statement, but we are continuously updating that. But for at least, I know for sure for contact and lead, we have these enrichment capabilities in place. So if you go into the object manager in your core org, go to contact or lead, there you can actually copy fields out of your data cloud into your contact object, in your standard Salesforce object. Or you can have a related list show, for instance, engagement data from people behaving on a website. Standard, out of the box, integrated into the CRM core. Now, here we are slowly progressing into that lasagna picture of Thomas in the beginning, where we had data cloud at the beginning, at the bottom, we had modeling layer with trust layer and bring your own model and all that stuff, all the way up to Copilot and the applications. So in Data Cloud, we have room for Einstein Studio, where we have the ability to start working with your models. And I'm intentionally speaking broadly because I'm now going to narrow it down. That can be foundational models like LLMs, generative AI, but it can also be old-fashioned predictive models. Machine learning, typical SageMaker, Vertex, whatever type of predictive modeling that you do there. An example of that is a product recommendation. You know from the data that's coming out of your connected systems, you know which type of person will most likely buy a next type of product in whatever given time after he bought a previous item. Pretty obscure if I say it like that, but you understand what I mean, right? If I bought a certain type of trousers, it will probably go nice with a certain jacket, right? Or a backpack goes nice with some hiking boots or whatever. So that serving that data into that externally hosted model, bring your own model, or use our own Einstein model, and the inference of reading that out and do stuff with it, that's all part of that Einstein Studio over there. This, what you see here, is that starter kit that Thomas talked about. The freemium or the starter kit, right? If you want your data cloud to become a CDP, you have to buy some additional credits, and those are the segmentation and activation credits that Thomas also talked about. Now you have made your data cloud into a CDP, because now based on the information and all that stuff that you've been doing in that project with knowing the stakeholders, knowing all your data points, et cetera, you can use that to do segmentation and activation.
What's the difference between the data action and the activation?
The data action is specifically for Marketing Cloud, and the activation is also for Marketing Cloud. And is there something special happening with audiences?
I think in the data action, the amount of what is triggering the data action is often limited to kind of like behavioral events or specific actions. So if there's like an abandoned cart and I want to trigger an email, that's where I will use data action.
But if I want to make a selection of all customers that have bought a certain product before and did not buy this, and they are not part of this other audience, that is something I would solve in the segmentation. So it's usually a bit more of a complex selection where you want to use business rules to decide who you want to target. And in the segmentation, you have a drag and drop builder. You can nest segment, you can combine, and like all the kind of things that you want to do from a marketing perspective.
Yeah.
So that is usually, the more advanced ones, but the data actually you mostly use for web behavior or specific actions.
Yeah, or an abandoned basket, or I want to send out this. We've discovered that a product defect in the shelf, so we want to send out to all our known sales orders, people that we know who have bought this product. We want to send out an email now.
Yeah. Yeah, the campaigning. Yeah.
The campaigning. Yeah. And also here, and I know some people in the room have seen that. Also in that segmentation part, you can actually use Einstein GPT for marketing to say, I would like to make a segment that involves middle-aged men who've bought a pair of shoes in the last 5 weeks and before that have not bought whatever, etc. And they are not gold member. All that type of segmenting happens in there. And you can do that in natural language, and Einstein will then translate that into the needed objects and fields and present you with, I think this is the segmentation you're looking for. It will do the count for you. It will say, okay, this is your marketing campaign. It has 2 people. Right. Okay. I'm not a marketeer, but a marketing campaign for 2 people is not what you want. Right. So you can create what we also call a segment lookalike, where you can say, no, I want to have at least 10,000 people in there. So play with my parameters with middle-aged men or the boots or whatever to make the target 10,000 people, because that's what my stock is or whatever. Question.
2 questions. So the CRM enrichment, you were unsure about the objects, but do you know if custom objects are also already?
The custom objects, not now yet. That must be roadmap, but I have no time frame. No, I'm sure on contact and lead, and I'm pretty sure about account.
My second question is for the third-party systems. I understand you have MuleSoft in place there.
Yep.
Connector, but is other middleware also supported?
Absolutely, okay. Absolutely. It doesn't matter. There is a little bit of extra work involved, because what is MuleSoft? MuleSoft is a special variety of this API, of this ingestion API, and the ingestion API is an API schema where you talk to and say, okay, I'm going to send you this data. And the thing is, if you use MuleSoft, you say, okay, I have MuleSoft, and it will do the automatic connected app and all that stuff for you. And if you have your own web methods or RPG or whatever, you have to think about segmenting your data, so clustering your data. I don't want to send more than 200,000 rows at one time. I don't want to congest my network. All that stuff you have to think about. But it's fine with us. No problem. No problem.
Actually, we're adding a lot of connectors as we go. I think we just announced that connectors last week. That we have like 150 connectors, and 50% I think is the more ETA or in beta. So we're really now adding a lot of new connectors as well. So if you have a request, you can always find it and
Yeah, we worked with one customer who said, okay, I like S3, I have S3, but I want to be the one sending my data from S3 into your system. Okay, you can do that, but you have to write some code on your AWS marketplace or whatever to look at your S3, parse it, and send it in. and you have to do the checks, whether it's okay and whether it's sent in. But that's the way the customer wanted to do it. So yeah, fine, possible.
Can you elaborate a little on the frequency timings you have here?
Yeah.
Let's say like I have a data in Sales Cloud org, and I want it to be ingested in the Journey Builder. Looking at the picture, I see like the data from Sales Cloud ingested the Data Cloud like every 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And to create a segment, there is a timing of a daily frequency, right? And then like an hourly frequency. Then
hourly, yeah.
What will be the time frame between the data appears in Sales Cloud and it is available in the data extension in Marketing Cloud?
Yeah, in the way you just described it, it's roughly 70 minutes, right? It's the 10 minutes to ingest, and it's the hourly segment creation that you can activate.
But in that case, like the profile data might be a little bit outdated because like the unified profiles are.
If you also want to do a unified profile, then it can take another day. Yes.
Yeah, but I think now we have an update there that we can run incremental updates. So if there is certain behavior, let's say it's a web behavior, you can actually run an update on that web behavior directly in Retrieval. So
yes.
It depends on the use case and which data we're exactly.
And how many user involvement you want. So if you say I'll update my contact here, and I'll wait for it to do all the steps in between in my system of reference, and I will wait for it to come into my segment. Then it will, if it needs to be updating a unified profile as well, it can take up to 1 day. However, you can set, okay, based on web behavior, which is streaming coming in near real time or at least 2 minutes, I can set a trigger to kick off unified profile identity resolution and speed all that stuff up. The other thing for real-time personalization use cases, because I have a feeling that you're more leaning towards that, is where we have, and we're going to talk about data graph in real time in a bit later, right? Where we have the ambition, where we say everything within that data cloud from connect, harmonize, unify, and act, to have that done within the time frame of maximum 2 seconds. And we do that with what we call real-time data graphs. So in there, you take subsets and trigger mechanisms in there to reduce the lead time through the system.
To make sure if it comes through the calculated insights, like the calculated insight is a bottleneck here because of
then you need to use streaming insights.
Then you need to use the streaming insights. Yeah, which is a little bit more expensive.
That's why always when there's use case, the customer comes up, I want real time. You need to dig deeper. Okay, which part of it do you want real time? Which data is actually real time that you have yourself?
Yeah.
What's kind of triggering that reaction?
Yeah.
And then also how important is real time for you in terms of cost and process. If that's all important, give an example. I was last week in Oslo. We had a customer, Hurtigruten. So they were presenting actually on stage on how they used it, and they used it to run the abandoned cart use case. And basically they said by doing that, they were able to earn so much money, they will actually were able paying back the whole data cloud instance just based on that use case. So find out what's that whole use case, right?
Yeah.
I think we need to take the break now, right?
Yeah, there was one question.
Yes, in regards to the data action.
Yeah.
Now we have regarding workflow. Are we planning to have Apex triggers in the near future?
I think you can have your Apex code listen to the platform event. So I'm looking at a certified data cloud consultant over there, and I think it's part of the exam actually, right? So an Apex, you can listen in Apex to your platform event, and then you can have an Apex trigger on that. I am nearly finished because the last part is sort of like the activation out of the system. closing that loop to your data lake. My bad, it should also say Google BigQuery over there, but it can also be for visualizations in Tableau or back to other systems, right? And other systems could be Power BI or whatever analytics tool you would like to use. Yeah, you heard that? Oh, shit. Sorry. Any questions for the break?
No.
Just the one?
What is the input for the Einstein studio for the data? I don't see that.
That's the data graph, actually. No, sorry, it depends. Yeah.
It does depend. If you create your model on SageMaker, you can select your models from your DMOs that you send over to SageMaker, where in SageMaker you do the querying of the data, gathering the data, etc., etc. Yeah.
Data sharing.
Yeah, zero ETL. Again.
I got it actually. I think there was no room to create an arrow.
That's probably it. Yeah. And I already forgot Google BigQuery on there. So
I'm going to go in detail, but I just want to share actually knowing all these different elements that you see here in these boxes. That's really important if you want to go for the data cloud consultant. So try to master those languages. Do I understand what is the streaming inside? When should I use it? What does it calculate inside do? So you could use it as your learning guide. But we have some trailheads, everything is out. But I think that's useful as well to go through. And you don't need to know, I believe, the exact timings of each stream, so that you don't have to worry about that.
no. Because they will change also with every release. And on the topic of release, very short, Salesforce does a 3 times a year release, right? With the major ones. Data Cloud is what we call staggered on those releases. So every month within the release cycle, we release new features because 4-digit people working on it, we don't want to save all that up and then dump it in one major release. Also, there's stuff in there that people are waiting for, right? Like unified account or account related list. We have actually B2B customers that are waiting for that. So we don't want to wait till the next release over 4 or 5 months, right? Okay, vector database. Who in this room has heard of red, amber, green before? Sorry, RAG. Retrieval augmented generation. Nobody ever, hasn't come across. Yeah, okay. Okay, I'll make it quick because we want to finish at 9. What we see now in this day and age, and this is already 2 years old, right? A lot of our customers' data sits in unstructured sources, email systems, knowledge articles, recorded Zoom meetings, transcriptions of meetings, a mail on a mail, a presentation, a PDF, a contract, all that stuff. So what we see up until now, basically, you would have to go through lengths to get that data out of it. OCR or ASR for speech recognition and all that stuff, just to get sensible field data into your transactional, structured, metadata-oriented database. Now, with this huge uptake of these new GPT and ChatGPT models, the need and the desire to start using those unstructured data sources becomes even higher than it already was. So that's where not only on unstructured data, but for a main and a big part, retrieval augmented generation plays a role. And let's dissect that for maximum 3 minutes. Retrieval means getting data from somewhere, right? And if it is in an S object in a field where it is lifetime value, that's very easy to retrieve. If it is, give me the discount percentages in our contract that we signed yesterday with this customer, that's not something that's very easy to retrieve. finding out what you're actually looking for, so dissecting the question, is already tricky. Discount, contract, what discount, which staffel, which number, and it is probably in a PDF somewhere in a system on a file storage. This data can, once you have retrieved that with semantic search and all that stuff, and I'll talk about that in a minute, is then put into a prompt template where you augment the whole prompt design that you have done. You are a sales agent and all that stuff that you are familiar with using in ChatGPT type of prompts. You feed that contextual dynamic grounded data into that prompt, send it off to your LLM, have the train go by. Remember the train at the beginning? We don't share, we don't steal your data. And it will then generate an answer back to you, which was augmented with retrieved data out of your unstructured data sources. Is everybody with me, or have I lost you completely now? Make sense? Cool. What you can do with RAG is you can combine all this stuff, this red, amber, green, to reduce the hallucinations, right? Because a model is trained on all that data that is available, but now you're grounding it with your data, which is not only in your objects and your fields, but also in all your unstructured data sources.
That's the fact. We generated the A5. We add instead of saying RAG retrieve for augmented generation, put in red, amber, green, because it didn't know the context or the background and where we are. So actually a good example of wrong results if you don't put in the right data.
So with this technology, you could have these benefits, right? But you're here for a little demonstration how this will fit in Data Cloud. 2 minutes.
That large language model can't be knowledgeable about everything that we would like them to know of. Let's do a little experiment here. We are instructing the LLM to behave like an expert answering a general knowledge question, and I'm going to seed this prompt with a question. How much did Spectre, the James Bond movie, make during its opening in South Korea? Upon which the LLM says, I'm sorry, but I don't have access to any real-time data or the ability to browse the internet. What if we give the LLM access to more data to answer such a question? That's precisely what we do with retrieval augmented generation. Again, we ask the LLM to behave like an expert answering this question, but now we are providing it with a bunch of information that we retrieve from a search index that I prepared ahead of time. I'm seeding the prompt with the same question, and let's see what the language model tells us. Now it comes back with an answer. In fact, it tells us that it delivered 8.2 million, including previews. It even tells us which particular snippet of information it used to come up with that answer, and it gives us a reference, a URL here, to the article that I have in my CRM system where that knowledge is stored. If I see how the prompt was resolved, I see all the information that we provided to the LLM in order to answer the question, and it picked up on the right details. Let's do another experiment. Again, without any further information, I'm now asking it to answer this question. At E3 in 2005, what console did Nintendo reveal that the next Zelda game would be developed for? Upon which the large language model tells us the next Zelda game would be developed for the Nintendo GameCube console. This is known as hallucination. The answer sounds plausible, but it is in fact incorrect. True, at that time, the GameCube was the console that Nintendo had out in the market, but the answer is incorrect, as we will see when we ground the prompt with information from our search index. Now we find out that actually the next Zelda game Twilight Princess would be developed for the Wii console. It wasn't out yet, and therefore still known under the codename Revolution, but very much so did Nintendo reveal at that conference that Zelda, the next game, would be released for the Wii console. Again, we see where the information is coming from, including a link to the article. In this demo, I will walk through all the end-to-end steps to set up such a system, to set up Retrieval Augmented General.
We'll pause it right there because now it will go into how it's being set up, and that's already been changed. It's become even better. 2 takeaways. First of all, it didn't know the answer in the Spectre example, but we fed it with information which was actually in 15 unstructured data articles coming from a IMDb source, I believe, that Reinier put it in. The second example, one of the Zelda game, was actually a fact of hallucination, where the LLM was trained on the basic data of an E3 gaming conference, but it made up an answer because, oh, that game, GameCube, well, it probably is released for that platform, which is untrue. In this case, no harm, no foul, really. But if you are running a knowledge article for a food poisoning or whatever recall, you want to be damn sure that all that data is correctly, and you want your bot to respond in the correct way. So that's why we use RAG to do that grounding and reduce the hallucination. So where does this sit in Data Cloud? Am I? Give me control. Yes. Here is where I want to go, because with using generative AI and this grounding of both our structured data, for instance, which is in a field, in a record, in an S object, or in a spreadsheet, in a whatever source system, I also want to use that unstructured data. And how do I do that? That is through this retrieval augmented generation. And the key in there is vector database. Why is that key? Because a vector database does embeddings, it chunks the data into manageable pieces, but that sits on Data Cloud. That's the link between RAG, semantic search, and Data Cloud. Because the architecture of Data Cloud is perfectly suited to cater for this type of use cases. So for the ones who go for the cloud certification, you have DLOs. In the future, we will have UDLOs, unstructured data lake objects. And we will have UDMOs, unstructured data model objects. So those are parts of that vector database. Familiar picture, right? The use of flows and Copilot sits in the end user applications. Commerce Cloud, CRM, Core, Marketing Cloud, whatever. The brain and not the brain, perhaps the heart or the architecture sits in Data Cloud. This vector database, but also all the reporting, all the audit and feedback is being stored in Data Cloud. So moving forward, if your customers or your business talks about, I want to do more with this generative AI type of thing, also automatically think about the role that Data Cloud can play in this situation.
It's
also the combination of that. So you can also combine the unstructured data with the structured data. So if you want to put a filter on specific data that they shouldn't use or use, you can all combine that in the same query.
Yeah.
So vector DB comes with the preloaded data, and who maintains that behind the scenes?
No. You heard Reinier, the guy in the movie, talk about search index. As soon as you load your unstructured data in Data Cloud as a new DLO and you hit the search index, you start creating that, that's when the chunking happens. That's when the embedding model starts creating the vector database. So the vector database is trained on your data, on your DMO, and only on the data that you provided. it is being augmented into the prompt, this generative AI instruction, and then being sent to the model of choice, whatever LLM you choose to use. The response is then coming back and used in your application. So the vector database, day 0 is empty. Yeah, it is, and it is in the Salesforce trust boundary. It's your data, we can't access it, it's your data, it's up to you what you put in.
That will work only in the context where you're using Salesforce AI stuff, but if you're bring your own LLM, then this vector database is not in the context because that is the AI, bring your own model, that's the vector database will come in context. How that works.
No, we'll still send over the data from the vector database.
Exactly.
We will retrieve it and send it over to the other LLM.
Because what happens if you ask a question, an open natural language question, that will be interpreted and that will be semantically searched. So your question will be vectorized as well. And that vector will be mapped to the vector database, and it will say, okay, in these chunks of data I don't know what the answer is, but I know in what chunks of data the answer will be. So I take those chunks and I decode them, sort of say. I put them in the prompt instruction, and I'll leave ChatGPT to come up with a sensible answer. Yeah.
All right.
Let's go.
Yeah. So I think to wrap up, can I get the control button? Thank you. Why is this so important? Because I think this is actually going to be a groundbreaking thing for the whole Salesforce platform, because whenever there will be like a new request coming in where you want to combine new data in Copilot, that's probably where this will be happening all under the hood. The end user might not know it, but to give an example of a use case we presented was a package company. Yeah, we're coming to this in a second. So the delivery company, if they lose a package, they might have like a document with information about all the found packages they have in the warehouse, but they don't know exactly to which package it matches. So they would just ask Copilot, can you help me find the package that looks like the silver laptop that the customer is looking for? And it will then actually find later that, okay, actually, there's here a description about the gray laptop. A gray laptop is very similar to a silver laptop. This might be actually the thing that the customer was looking for, and it's there in that not in that warehouse where you can pick it up. So yeah, there are a lot of use cases possible with this unstructured data that can be combined with your own enterprise data and all in a secure way. So also try experiment with it, I would say. Try to figure out like, hey, what is something that I tried to ask ChatGPT before that I couldn't get an answer on because I didn't have the right data? Well, that's probably something that you can solve with this.
Vector database currently in pilot.
Yeah.
Summer, it will be GA.
But we're still accepting also pilot candidates if you're interested. All right, data spaces. I'm going to go quick through this because we covered this already. So data spaces is a way how you can virtually segregate data in the platform. So we're not going to physically make a copy of the data into a separate box. No, we're going to say whenever I'm in data space Netherlands or data space Belgium, I can only see the data that's relevant for Netherlands or for Belgium. And that is what we do. So we use this typically for multi-brand, multi-region, and also where you want to have a bit more access control on what kind of data is accessible. I'm going to skip this one. But I think it's
familiar picture.
Yeah. But I think this is where it's important to know. So data spaces comes after the data is ingested and connected. So you first do like a central place where you connect all the data. That's done on an admin level. This is not where end users sit. This is where you say, okay, these data lake objects, these data model objects, I want to make available for this team or this department. And that is where they can build their own segmentations or their own calculate insights. You can have run your own identity resolution if you have different rules to set up, but they all operate on the same data. So typically, if you're active with multiple brands or multiple countries, this is always, yeah, a very important topic to consider. And I think indeed it starts usually with what is the process within my business organization? How am I right now managing the multiple countries? Do I have a central team managing all countries? Well, then probably I don't need the data space. But do I have a separate marketing team in every country? Then you need to think, okay, are they going to build their own segments, or are we just going to share them the segments? So what kind of design we need to do here? I'm going a bit quicker because we have limited time. I'm going to skip this one. I can share you the video. It's on YouTube.
Today, explore data space.
Yeah.
Did that, done that.
But you can see it on YouTube. Actually, there's a lot of content on YouTube, by the way. So we talked about the homework. Can someone tell me what is the homework? Yeah, exactly. And you already had a sticker, but you get a sticker as well. we have more stickers here. So you can provision Data Cloud within your existing Salesforce homework. So that's completely fine. Then it will act within the same platform. But if you don't have any Salesforce environment yet, or you have multiple Salesforce environments, you might want to set up Data Cloud in a separate org. There are multiple reasons. Maybe you don't want anyone else to work with it, or you're still in an experimentation phase, or you want to have that data connected from all the different orgs. So there are different options there that you need to consider. And then also we have a question that we get a lot around sandboxes. So what we'll be adding, I think it's in the July release, we have a slide on that. There will be a beta starting where we can provide also sandboxes to our customer, where you can get access to a separate sandbox within the same environment. Another thing important to consider when you're connecting, think about the amount of Salesforce environments you have, especially if you have multiple Salesforce environments. We can connect all of them to one Data Cloud. That is an option. But you can also say, no, we have two versions and instances for different teams. That's also a valid option. But you can connect one Data Cloud with only one Marketing Cloud. But the other way is okay. So you can connect Marketing Cloud to multiple Data Clouds. I think these scenarios, you don't need to remember it today, but maybe this is actually an exam question. I think it is. I think there is an exam question that says that you can connect only one Marketing Cloud to Data Cloud, I believe. So if you have that one, let me know.
Write that one down.
But it might gonna change as well in the future if we add that new feature into the platform. But take that into account and remember, if it comes up, have that conversation first, or have your Salesforce technical architect check and validate what's feasible. Are you had a question there?
You have a two marketing cloud, then what to do? You need to have two customer data platform.
Yeah, well, two Data Clouds, so we don't do CDP anymore. But no, it's correct. So if you have two Marketing Cloud environments, that is where it gets tricky. And also, I know it's a future that's coming, but there you need some custom design. So that is the moment I would call Eric and say, like, hey, Eric, let's brainstorm. What are the options? What can we do?
Just sell another Marketing Cloud. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good question. By these connections, you mean only activations or also data actions?
Yeah, both. I mean, I'm not sure we have a slide on that. Yeah, so here is maybe a slide to explain it. So we had your Salesforce homework where you maybe have provisioned Data Cloud in. So you can then combine the data that you have in your homework, but you could have multiple orgs that you can connect. So for that, the ingestion, completely no problem. You can just ingest it like it's another org. For the activation, it requires a bit more work, because here you will get Lightning components in your home org where you can use and access the data. But as soon as you go in here and you want to retrieve data from this Data Cloud environment, like in a related list, that will cost extra work now. It's possible, but it requires Eric and some other smart people.
I think the question is on Marketing Cloud specific, right? This is
Okay.
CRM org.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think the question is, you can only have one marketing cloud connected.
No, you can have two multiple data cloud orgs.
Yeah, if you go one slide back.
Yeah, okay.
You have two data clouds. They can go to one marketing cloud.
Yeah.
And that applies for both activation and data actions.
Correct.
And I believe the answer is yes.
Yeah.
You're right. That goes for both.
Okay, sorry, I thought you were on the sales cloud.
No. But that's a good bridge to the next one, because that is actually leading up to, and people reading the top slide, without remote data cloud, this is the case. If you have a home org with related list, with copy fields, very easy. The tongue twister again, data cloud triggered flows, very easy. Happens very easy in the home org. But what happens if you have a EMEA home org with a data cloud, and you have country orgs that have their own orgs, core org for sales or for service? If they want to look at the data cloud, they have to build up and do query API, connect API into the remote data cloud. A data cloud triggered flow is a bit more difficult to do that way. You have to go the platform event trigger route and listen to the platform event bus of the remote EMEA org. But that will be changing with remote data cloud. Future looking statement here, small print. This is coming. It's 250 plus, and 250 is actually the next release, the summer release. So what that will mean is that it doesn't really matter if you are here in org 1 or you are in org 4. It seems like you are in the home org, but you are sort of like remote data cloud org. And the application in your component will say remote data cloud instead of data cloud.
Yeah. So this is especially also interesting for acquisitions indeed. So if you have like multiple brands coming together.
Yeah.
We had a big car company also that wanted to do it. They had already Salesforce at the other side and they wanted to connect the systems. Normally that would take like years of migration. Here we said, actually just use this connector and you can turn it on in the fly. But this is, sorry, that's not with remote data cloud yet, because then we would still need some custom integration back. But indeed, remote data cloud will allow you then to install like a mini app within the different orgs. So then that mini app has access to the segments or the data model objects. You don't do the configuration, the setup. That's what you do in the home org. It's just you pick up the data and you start using it within the Salesforce environment. So again, if you have a customer with multiple CRM environments and a lot of data challenges, this might actually be already a really great use case for them to start using Data Cloud, because this is where they might need a lot of custom work today, and this is where they can solve it natively, through the interface. But again, it's roadmap. It says pilot in May. Sorry, it's incorrect. It's beta in July. Forward looking. And then there is another thing that we're going to add on top of that. Here the beta is correct. End of July, not end of June. We also then going to make it possible for sandboxes to start publishing changes to production. So if you have a sandbox environment and you want to automatically promote changes that you made in your sandbox to a production environment, that's also something that we're going to add.
Yeah.
So a lot of like quality of life solutions that's going to make the life of architects and specialist admins much easier.
Yeah, exactly. And for those SIs in the room who have worked with full copy, partial copy, developer sandboxes, that's where you do your work, right? That's a safe environment. That's where you can fuck up. That's where you can mess up. That's where you can delete and refresh, etc. We don't have a sandbox at the moment in that, a data cloud sandbox in that environment.
Algorithm.
What we are bringing up now is that you can follow the same CI/CD type of rules of checking in, etc., with the sandbox on Data Cloud as well, and that's coming end of July. No,
end of July.
End of July. But this is sort of like the number one voice of the customer that we heard over the last year. straight after data space.
Yeah, but that was usually in marketing. This was typically not needed because marketers, they rather want to go fast and quick.
Yeah, and they use business units, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then sometimes it's okay if it breaks because it's not like customer critical communication because it's just a marketing campaign. Of course, it's from an upsell but the business doesn't go bankrupt the next day. But if it goes bankrupt based on a mistake, you want to make sure it's all right. All right, then how much time we have?
Just don't worry about time.
Okay. Okay, so implementation best practices. So I think really key thing here is from an implementation point of view, and you also shared about it, Vinay. Before you start actually implementing and configuring Data Cloud, maybe first try to make that architecture map of what are the systems that I want to connect. So the slide that Eric showed. Then start thinking about what are the data sources that I need? How does my data model look like today? What is the frequency of the data? What are my primary keys or relationships between the different tables? So all these kind of things will actually happen in the first month of an implementation is find out how do I want to design it. And that's also, we don't just configure it. We first do this whole sign-off process, and that can be done with a partner or with our professional services where you actually set up the blueprint of the implementation. And that's what you do. And after that, you will start implementing. And do you have something to say on the system of record for each data source? Or
yeah, for those who have already been working on CDP implementations themselves, they are sometimes acting as both a system of reference and a system of record. So people can do updates in a CDP. That's not how Data Cloud is intended to work. Data Cloud is a system of reference. As you could tell by my architecture picture, we take data sources, data streams. That's where the data changes happen. And we act upon those changed deltas, right? Not absurd deltas. We do stuff upon that. So if you say, okay, I'll just change that in Data Cloud and I'll give my service agent access to my Data Cloud, that's not going to happen. You give your service agent or your salesperson or your marketing person contact to the source systems where they do updates and whatever, have you not? So that's understand your system of record type of data.
Right. This is actually more on the planning and mapping. Yeah, so of course the Data Cloud comes with a lot of standard objects already included that you can select. You can also make your own custom objects. And actually, if you are using one of the industry clouds, we're now also making data kits. So with those data kits, so do we have it for automotive, I believe? Or
yeah, they're working on it, yeah.
So if you have Financial Service Cloud, which is like the financial service branded CRM environment with all the relevant financial objects in there, you can actually use the data kit then to also make sure that all those financial objects are also available within the data model.
Yeah, and also take your time. Don't start pushing buttons. Really think about it. Think about that stakeholder. Find his manager. Find the use case before you do that mapping. If you're going to train for your certification, you'll be doing a lot of those button mashing because you'll be doing that mapping, creating, and just getting the concept in there. But that's a guided path for you, SIs and techies to learn that. But if you're looking to this in a customer environment, really talk about the data points. What's the model? What are we after? What's the use case? What do we need? Think about it.
Yeah, and as a partner, you can also get access to a developer environment and the customers as well. They're also on Trailhead. We're now giving more hands-on assignments where you also get a separate developer environment.
Yeah.
So we have also extended the capabilities to kind of just break stuff in a place where it's safe. All right, I think okay, MDM. You want to do that now?
Go to the meshed piece.
Okay, later.
Or the survivor kit.
We'll come there later.
Yeah.
Okay, and then also the identity resolution. As you said, it's a very important process and actually consuming a lot of credits in the system. So this definitely needs a bit more planning ahead on how you want to use it. So you can have multiple identity graphs even if you want to, but do be mindful again that this could cost you more money. And then also the matching rules, you have also the option to do reconciliation rules. So if you have multiple data sources that are conflicting, there are some rules where you can also configure in which source is my priority. So that could be good if you have multiple sources with email addresses or primary email address or contact email address, and you want to check which source you want to pick there. Anything else to add? Yeah, sometimes actually identity resolution is not even needed. I think it's not on this slide, but for some things where you want to run data actions or trigger cases or contexts and you don't need it, then don't use it, right?
Absolutely.
All right. So here's the slide. We'll definitely share this with a lot of information. So you'll find a lot of more technical trailheads as well. I think also on YouTube. I'm not sure if the YouTube links are in here, but there is also some really good YouTube videos around where you can actually see a lot more on the architecture. I think even the recording from Arvind is also there. Yep. So Arvind is our global architect for partners. And yeah, start playing around, prepare for your certification, and yeah, hopefully at least this was helpful today to get you started on that journey or help you learn more today.
I was actually expecting one MDM slide.
Yeah, it's coming. It's with the.
Oh, is that with the next?
The Mythbusting.
Okay, so, sorry.
Okay. So, should we go with the Mythbusting then?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I think we touched one already. Real time. Myth or fact, or what do you guys think? Huh? Near real time. Yeah.
It's near myth. Near myth.
It depends on your definition, indeed. Yeah. So I have here a full slide. We can share it later. So this goes even deeper into. Again, that is why I always say it depends. Because it really depends on what are the data points that I'm going to use in part of my activation segmentation. I think, where's the data graph? Where is that? It's not on here, I believe.
Is it the one at the top? Real-time identity stitching?
No, it's not here. Okay. But anyway, what the data graph does is basically what you could say, I'm going to make some part of my data available in a real-time data store. So whenever another system wants to retrieve it, I can pick it up in a much quicker fashion. So that's another way of optimizing it. But what you see here, there are a lot of integration options to choose from. So whenever you go into an use case discovery, don't just stick with, okay, I want to use this data, this business outcome, this KPI. But go a level deeper, like what kind of data, where is it coming from, what's the frequency and recency of this data source, how often should I send this out, who I'm targeting, and you can also experiment with it, right? You can run it in real time and then do a batch based and see which is actually giving a better performance from a KPI perspective. Because an abandoned cart sounds nice in real time, but usually you don't want to send it in real time because then they're still on the website. So have that deep dive discovery. And also what I want to say here, there's a lot of innovation happening. We're adding a lot of new real-time features as well on the platform. So stay tuned for connections. I think there was a lot of content there as well. And also for the release webinars that we're going to do for the upcoming releases. So yes, we can do real-time or near real-time, but it depends. Then we have myth or fact. And that's where we have your MDM slides.
Yeah, I can click through. I didn't know this was animated, sorry.
Oh, okay.
So, well, a myth busted, and I've busted it already. So data cloud's not an MDM, right? No point beating around the bush. It's not an MDM. We don't do that. We sometimes get RFPs from customers asking us to declare how we create a golden record. And we do create a golden record, although not in the MDM sense of the word golden record. Because if an MDM says golden record, it says have a survivor. I have 3 first names in my system. I want you, MDM product, to select 1. Because I want to have a survivor. I want to know how you got there. I want to know your rules. I want to know your stewardship. I want to be able to roll back, etc., etc., etc. We say, yes, dear customer, in your RFP you ask about golden records. We can do that. However, we prefer the term unified profile. Take the analogy of a key ring. If you have a key ring, I only have my car key, but on your key ring there's several keys, and every key does something else. However, it is your access mechanism to whatever lock you want to unlock. If it's a car, if it's a house, if it's a safe or whatever. Within a unified profile, the unified profile is the name of the key ring. You can have a key ring for your holiday house. You can have a key ring for your all the Ferraris in your garage. You can have a key ring for whatever. That is a unified profile. We keep linkages between the keys and the key ring. An MDM gets rid of it. And that's why I like this analogy. If you look at the piece in a how they grow, how they call it, before they go into the pot, the peas, how they grow, they have linkage. They are related to each other. If you take the peas out, they are still peas, but you know where they're coming from because they're coming from a certain batch. But however, if you feed them to your youngster, your baby, and you make it a mash, which is basically a golden record in MDM, you don't know where the pea is coming from. So our golden record is the pot of peas. That's the analogy I'd like to leave you with.
No.
Platinum reference. I like that one. I like that one. Yeah, I'll make a mental note. Yeah.
But I think another key thing is, right, if a customer is asking for an MDM, it might be actually that they're looking for an MDM to solve specific use cases. Those use cases could still be solved with Data Cloud, maybe not in a way how an MDM would solve for it. But we had customers before that came with us with an MDM question, but actually realized later on that they don't need an MDM, but Data Cloud could solve their needs. So it doesn't mean like we cannot do it, but it's
true.
Yeah.
Yeah. You now see that customer has a multiple viewpoints.
Yeah.
Let's say I'm a customer that needs like a profile. This customer that also have like a debit profile where they can say, okay, for my bills, I want to use a different bill address than for my where I normally make for my newsletter.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and an example is a rental company who has multiple outlets. They have B2B, they know their customer, they know what they rent, etc., etc. But they also lend through different outlets. And in there, the user is saying, yeah, I get my bill paid, it's lent for a day, it's returned, email address is aa@bbb.com, whatever. So you'll have a lot of those aaa.@bbb.coms. That is typical is something where they say, I want to use MDM because I want to know my customer and I want to have this renter, I want to target him, but I can't identify him. I need MDM. Well, do you? Do you have a rental address? Do you have an account number for a bank? Exactly. So credit card number. So you can have other ways to move forward and you don't need MDM.
Yeah,
Next
but
one.
then probably you don't want to merge those records based on
No, you don't. No, you want to segment based on, and you want to profile and have a key ring of that type of data. Yeah.
All right. Oh, we had some.